Good afternoon and welcome to NFTs Live. I'm your host, Tyler D. It is Friday, March 4th, a sunny and warmer day here in Chicago. We're thawing out. The NFT markets have been ice cold, but we might be seeing some signs of thawing there too. We'll see. A bit early to tell. I've got Brett Richey on with me this morning to break it all down. Brett, how you doing?
Doing good, Tyler. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. We've got a lot on deck for today. So on the docket, we're going to start with a macro overview, take a look at our trusty Dune Analytics page. Then we're going to talk about NFT regulatory scrutiny from the SEC, and then some issues that happened yesterday with MetaMask, Infura, and OpenSea. And then should users be worried? Then on a lighter note, we're going to talk Ukraine fundraising and a ringer and X copy up for sale today. Then we'll go into our standard segments. We're going to hit the 7-day market movers from Flips Finance. In one of ones, we're going to talk Driftershoots, talk his all-time high, and then ask, is it one of one season? Then we'll take a look at the floors at WGMI. We'll hit the TreasureDAO marketplace exploit and talk, was it really a bullish exploit or not? And then we'll end the show talking a few upcoming drops. A lot to cover. Sound good?
Let's do it.
All right, let's jump in. So we're going to start macro overview. I'm going to share here the OpenSea Dune Analytics dashboard. So a bit to unpack. So we closed February with 3.57 billion. It was the second highest month of all time for NFT sales, but down considerably, right, from January, which was our all-time blow-off month. And then if you take a look at the daily candles, it's pretty much been down only since we peaked there at the end of January, outside of a big weekend there around the Super Bowl and some anticipation. So certainly liquidity has gone down considerably. We're now kind of coming in at the $60 to $70 million a day mark, which we really hadn't seen since December. So certainly low, and the floors are reflecting it. You know, everything is down 10 to 20% on the week or so. I think so that's definitely bearish, right? I can't deny that. A few bullish indicators for me as I scroll down the dashboard a little bit more. First, the OpenSea monthly active traders. So we had a huge influx of traders in January, 546,000, up almost 200,000 from December. Well, almost that entire user base stuck around and transacted again in February. Then Mando actually tweeted a chart yesterday, which I like. This is essentially the daily active user count across the different NFT platforms. And you can see how low it was back in summer of 21, the August peak mania into early fall, how it dipped in that November bear. And then where we're at now, January and February, and the daily user count is holding pretty high. So we're sitting around 35,000 or so daily active users, of course, down from peak. But that 35,000 is significantly higher than even where we were in peak August. So I don't know. I'm feeling cautiously optimistic about this, Brett. What's your take on some of the data that we just went through?
I think it's really bullish that the users are sticking around, or obviously some of those are new users coming in February too, but for the most part, if you look at the sort of like November dip here, no one was even trading. And now, even though the market's been a bit bearish, right, there's still a lot of users. That's one of my overall kind of view on NFTs is that, say there's only 1 million people in NFTs now or so, right? That number is going to be 100 or 1,000x in the coming years. Now, that doesn't mean that these older bags, like they're going to be trading the same way, but I do think that there's just going to be way more people in NFTs. There's also a lot more supply coming. Maybe they don't really care about, my Bitbird from April 2021. Maybe no one ever comes to buy those. But there's a lot more users coming. I think this is really good to see people sticking around. Like when liquidity dries up and the floor drops, it's nowhere near as fun than up only mode, right? That's awesome. When you wake up, you're up 20% every day. You want to make a sale, it goes right away and you're making a profit. Like those are great times. This is the opposite and people are still sticking around. So I think that's a pretty good sign.
Yeah, for sure. And the other chart from the previous dashboard I'll show to also highlight your overall point there. So this is the total traders over time cumulative chart. We're sitting at 1.37 million. When we started NFTs live in September 1st, I was looking at this today. The number was 330,000. So a million more cumulative NFT transactors.
In that, by the way, that's by wallet, right? So like I'm 12 of those wallets. A ton of people, right, have a bunch of wallets that interact with OpenSea. So that's not even 1.3 million people. It really might be 300K or something like that. So it's a small amount of people
for sure
in NFTs so far. It's kind of crazy given some of the prices and the liquidity in some sets. It's just not that many people.
Still room to grow, certainly. But a potential hamper there that we have to talk about, regulatory scrutiny. So on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, the announcement came out that the SEC is starting to scrutinize the NFT market. This headline says over illegal crypto token offerings. So this is really the first time that we've seen formal efforts of the SEC to look into NFTs. At least it's been made publicly aware of. Certainly, I think there was a lot of overreaction right away when we saw the headline, which is, of course, indicative of how the NFT market is. And then I think people have kind of come to terms with, this new reality and essentially who will, actually fall under their scrutiny or not. Will it be everything, or will it just be, the more egregious actors? I do want to quickly show this Howey test for those who may not be familiar with this. So this is the test that the SEC applies to see if something is actually a security or not. It says essentially that if investors are kicking in money to fund a company with the intention of profiting from the efforts of the organization's leadership, it's a security. So I think there's a few ways to interpret that. And I'm curious for yours. To me, first off, every NFT could fall into this that has a founding team and a roadmap, because you could look at the initial NFT sale as a token sale that's a fundraising effort with the intention of the mentors to profit off of that. So that's the strictest interpretation. I feel like just in general market sentiment, talking to people, most think it's more related to the NFT tokens themselves. So the NFT products that launch their own coins, essentially. But kind of where do you sit on, early projections of where the SEC is going to focus?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It's more going to be on like the more egregious scam type of projects, as well as ones that do have that token that may potentially make some promises. Something like Doodles, for example, where they do have a roadmap that they're executing on. They're not promising you a profit. Like to me, I really doubt they're going to go after something like Doodles, right? I don't think it did anything wrong, right? They're just, here's some art, like give us some money, and then like we have this roadmap. That's fine. You then have stuff like some of those, play to earn games where they have the token and it gets a little tricky. And then some of these founders, they'll just say ridiculous stuff. Like the Pixelmon guy tweeted out, Pixelmon is the next blue chip. This is investment advice. Something else that was like pretty bad. So when you got stuff like that to go after, I really don't think, like in the ICO world, right, they really went after most of the egregious ones. For the most part, like they didn't cast, they had some guidance that was like very unclear, but they didn't have any sort of like blanket kind of attacks on projects. So I really doubt we would see that here. To me, it might, there's a lot of egregiousness in the space right now. So, I don't blame them at all for saying, hey, we're gonna step in at some point.
I think most NFT users would welcome this if it's focused on the egregious actors, the cash grabs that we all pretty much universally want out of the space. Well, this wasn't the only regulatory impact from the week. So I'm going to share just a couple tweets from Fubar, OX Fubar on Twitter, just because he has some nice, concise summaries of what happened. So this all happened yesterday. So first, rumors started going around Twitter that MetaMask was blocking IP addresses in Venezuela. Looking under the hood, it turned out to be the underlying RPC Infura that was actually doing the blocking, not MetaMask. MetaMask is decentralized. I kind of challenged that. Both Infura and MetaMask are owned by Consensus, the same company. So I don't really know. Everyone who's quick to point out that it wasn't MetaMask, it was Infura. Like, okay, it's still the same company. who was doing all this. So I didn't really buy all the pushback there. But certainly a big issue, unilaterally blocking IP addresses of users in an entire country. And then on top of that, OpenSea shared storefront now deleting collections associated with various sanctioned jurisdictions. The one that I saw the most was from Iranian artists who had previously sold hundreds of ETH in their digital art collections using the OpenSea contract. Now off of OpenSea, you can't find the NFTs on your OpenSea page. I spent some time looking around, and Rarible is the only site that I could actually even find these Iranian artist NFTs at this point. So they still exist. They're on the blockchain.
I bought some on Object on Tezos yesterday.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So my take on this is, I think it's pretty clear that OpenSea is under investigation right now, or they're prepping for their IPO. They've got a compliance lead who just has recently entered the picture, because it is illegal for U.S. citizens to do business with Iranian citizens who live in Iran. That is a violation of U.S. sanctions law.
Bullshit, in my opinion. Quit punishing citizens for the actions of their government.
I'm with you there firmly, but it's pretty clear to me that OpenSea has been violating these sanctions rules for like the past year, and it seems like they just realized it. So I'm curious for the fallout of this. I think the bigger question is, a lot of the draw of the space is decentralization and crypto and NFTs, and clearly it's not decentralized if the big actors who run all the services are centralized. So I guess
bearish. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you your reaction to this kind of FUD here that happened the last few days.
The problem is these are U.S. companies, right? OpenSea said in their tweet, like, look, we're a U.S. company and we have to abide by these rules. The U.S. in crypto, for whatever reason, is the strictest country, right? You go, like, you'll go to a site, like a DeFi site or something, and it's like citizens of North Korea, Syria, Iran, USA, and China, like, can't use this. And so I don't blame OpenSea. Like, if I were in their spot where I've got this multi-billion-dollar company, I'm in the US, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna like jeopardize that. So I understand them taking the safe route here, but it sucks. Like, it's against the ethos of the space. It's like, I really hate seeing them delist a collection like that, especially out of the blue without any sort of warning, especially from the storefront. You should let people migrate. At least they could have had some window to solve this problem instead of just doing it overnight. But theoretically, it could be bullish for X2Y2, Looks Rare, like any of these marketplaces that are not US based. If you're an anonymous offshore marketplace, you can get away with a bit more. And Infura, again, there's other services you can use. You can run your own. There's other options out there.
Workarounds.
So it's not great, but the technology still works. So there are workarounds.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I was going to ask you, what are your thoughts on the path to true decentralization? And it's going to be reliant on these either offshore and or anonymous teams to essentially build competing products.
But that's tricky too, right? Yeah. Especially anonymous teams in this space. It's like they can always rug you at any point to some extent.
Plenty of its own risks.
Like OpenSea, for all of its flaws, right? Like, that it is a very legitimate business. They're not out to like steal from you. They may make mistakes or whatever, but they're it's about as safe a business to use within the realm of as risky as crypto is as anything. But the US, I just don't think the government's going to change their tune. Like, I would love for them to just back off and like go after the scams. Like, this isn't, let Iranian artists sell their art. Like, there was a guy from Turkey who just had a Iranian blood, but he was Turkish. He had a Turkish passport. He got banned from Binance just because he was Iranian by birth. So these sanctions are far reaching.
Yeah. For sure. And definitely shining a light on the centralization versus decentralization piece. Just to round out the topic, I think the reality is most users don't really care about that argument, and most actually prefer centralization. And we'll be clear about how they make their choices, but it's going to be a
Yeah.
long road ahead. On a lighter note, let's talk about good news from the week: Ukraine fundraising via NFTs. So we've seen some projects do it. We highlighted Turf last week. Then the Ukraine DAO did a fundraise this week. They were originally promising an airdrop and then pulled that because people were complaining about the airdrop. It was a mess. I'm not going to get into that. But yesterday, two major announcements. So first, a top collector, Rudy Adler, he's an OG in the NFT space, has just an unbelievable, super rare and generative art collection. Announced he's going to auction off Ringer 376. We're showing it here on the screen in this rare blue and yellow palette. No reserve. All the proceeds go to NGOs working around Ukraine. So I thought that was really awesome. He's already got a 150 ETH bid on it. I set the over under at 250 on this. This is a Grail Ringer. Previously, the only blue and yellow I've seen sell changed hands for 400 ETH over the summer. Granted, that was peak mania, but the highest end Grail Ringers have sold for 2,000 ETH. So this is a significant asset for him to be selling and turning over the proceeds to Ukraine. So
Good for
shout out
Rudy.
to Rudy. Yeah, definitely awesome. And then not to be left out, XCopy minted special operation to the endowment owner here, also giving the proceeds to those affected by the Ukrainian invasion. You see the tagline here: "Mother's love greater than bombs." And 6529 has got the high bid on this right now, 165 ETH. So these will be some fun auctions to watch here. What was your reaction to what we saw here?
I'm not surprised by the prices. I mean, it's obviously, I don't play in this level of stakes, but I'm not surprised. I mean, I wouldn't, personally, if I instead of ringers, I would be buying 100 pieces of some smaller set or whatever. That's just kind of how my mind works. Or same with XCopy. I'd rather go, buy a bunch from like 0.5 to 2 ETH or whatever. So I don't have a great insight here, just because this level of stakes just doesn't interest me. Like, I don't know how much money I would have to be firing like 150 to 250 ETH on a piece, but it's more than I have.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking more just conceptually. I think what's cool about what we've seen this week is just Web3 crypto native folks fundraising in real time and getting funds over to Ukraine, a country in need of it, and without all the previous Web2 red tape and whatnot. So it's definitely been
the fundraising is great. For like Ukraine, they put out just in their Twitter, they put a donation address. I think Ethereum donations were like 5-1 to Bitcoin, which was interesting. A lot more ETH came in, but yeah, like I think these pieces would be going. I don't think they're getting necessarily like a charity markup. I think this is probably, at least here at the 150-ish range, they'd probably be getting here anyway, whether there was the charity component or not. That could help, I guess raise the floor of the sale and then potentially have a higher ceiling due to the charity. But yeah, I think, I mean, crypto is really good for like transacting money internationally. Go send a bank wire or something. It's a joke compared to sending ETH somewhere.
Yeah, not great. But shout out to XCopy and Rudy for facilitating these. All right, let's get into our segments. I want to hit the 7-day market movers here from our friends over at Flips Finance. If you take a look at the top 20, the overall theme is obvious.
Pain.
It's max pain. All the floors are down. I think I led the show with 10 to 20%. It's worse. It's closer to 10 to 30 to 40% in some of these sets. So we'll start Invisible Friends, 3x the second highest leading volume. They did 15,000 ETH. Although we saw the floor slowly drop from that 9 ETH range. Revealed on Sunday. Immediately started dropping. It went all the way down to 5.5, but it seems to have rebounded here. Do you think 5.5 was the floor, and does it hold it in the 6s, or do you think we still go down a bit more?
I, it's hard to say. I think if the market continues like this, it'll be a slow trickle down. People get impatient, and there's not as many new buyers coming in necessarily to fire 6 ETH on a piece. But yeah, there are only 5,000, right? A lot of the times these sets have 10,000 or 20,000 for tubby cats. So I think that does make a big difference, because a fair amount are just going to be out of circulation. But yeah, right now it's hard for me to say. Like, my default in this market is like slow trickle down for any project you ask me about, for the most part, like until proven otherwise, and that can change very quickly. But that's how I feel right now.
I tend to agree, and we've absolutely seen that. We have seen a little bit of a rebound. So Invisible Friends, I mentioned it. BAYC 6 got swept up this morning. Clone X has seen some real buying pressure. Azuki had dropped down to mid-8s. It's back to 10. Similar story across the board. NFers was one that I believe it got down all the way to 2, into maybe even into the 1s. It's back at 2.7, so it's still down 30% on the week, but up from the local bottoms. So certainly some positive news there. We'll see though if that holds, or if we continue going slowly down.
I'll say the one here, you talked about the buying pressure on Clone X. I do think that is the safest bet out there that also still has upside. You have, I mean, Nike, they've been doing stuff, and Artifact, the team behind Clone X, they've been delivering. And then when you have that sort of Nike machine that could be turned on or not, you don't know. There's some risk, but it's like, I feel they're a lot safer than something like MFers, where, like, I love Satoshi, but that's a meme token where, the Nike marketing behemoth to me is a safer bet. That doesn't mean it's a better bet, just depends on your risk tolerance. But like, I think Clone X will probably do fairly well in a bear market compared to some other projects.
Yeah, a couple reactions to that. One, in bear markets, you always want to pay attention to the collections that hold up the best, see the most volume. Clearly, Clone X is at the top of the board. And I agree, like in the whole mid-tier PFP set, they're the safest play. The one I think that's got the highest upside, even with the 20,000 supply.
Yeah.
And I think there's more on the immediate roadmap for them too. On the flip side, a bit of a disappointment with Doodles. I want to show the space caps here. My page may not be loading, but Monday the space capsules came out. General market sentiment was really positive. Like, people loved the space caps, but it didn't move the needle at all. In fact, we only saw like 5 real space cap sales in this week. There was a couple early on where people thought it was an airdrop and were confused and sold it for like 5 or 7 ETH. But putting those aside, I thought we'd see some like rare space doodle sales this week. And it was basically crickets. What was your reaction to
I thought there'd be more volume. The floor basically stayed the same, which is interesting to me, given that there have been no sales. Like, I don't have the doodles, but I'd probably be a little worried here. And I might say, well, it's still 11. I'm going to sell, because these didn't move the market. It hasn't dropped. The price is the same as it was before, and there haven't been very many sales. So it's like a little weird.
It is. I think overall they've got some big visions for the product. I think the product will still be fine, but
we might be able to get back in at 8 or something. It's kind of my thinking. And typically, I don't like doing that, trying to short-term trade. Like, if you like doodles long-term and you're in there, I'd probably just hold it and don't overthink it.
Yeah, definitely the same. Another, I'll call it disappointment. It was a disappointment. So World of Women had this massive high-end sale at Christie's. I want to say it was Wednesday, 567,000 pounds. It was $750,000 US, smashing the prior all-time high for this collection. On Thursday, there was two sales in 24 hours on Thursday, in the first day following it. So typically, the price action you see is when there's a huge sale up top, it pulls some floor action along with it. And we absolutely did not see that. I mean, they're coming in at 21st on the board outside the top 20, 790 ETH traded. The floor is down 7%. So it's held up stronger than a lot of the other sets who dropped more, but not great. I would have expected a little bit more upward price action there.
Not great. I agree.
Then the last one I had to cover, the lone winner of the week, or putting Dented Fields aside, DGen Tunes, 100% up on the week, 0.7 floor. I'm gonna quickly show their OpenSea page. 8,888 degenerate tunes that double as a membership to an exclusive metaverse community with the power to build it up. And you see the art here, which I actually like. I think the tunes art is pretty cool. So I was checking this out. I went to their roadmap, and they've got a really interesting roadmap. One that might come under SEC scrutiny. So phase one, they're launching the collection. 2, they're launching the community connection. But what was interesting to me is they promised these airdrops, including additional tunes and ETH. This is the first time I've seen anyone talk about airdropping ETH. I don't know if you've seen that in a roadmap before. So a bit of a lotto function.
Alphabetties.
Okay.
I won 1 ETH. They did like a 1 ETH raffle for 10 pieces from the collection. And whatever, if your number was drawn, they just airdrop. They sent you an ETH. So
interesting. All right, so it's not the first time. And then they're launching Toontown. It looks like they're going to launch a token called Toon, which is pretty standard, and then another airdrop. Then the last piece that I have to call out, because I've never seen this before, and it kind of baffles me. So along with their rare 1-of-1 pause, they're giving anyone who mints this token 15,000 ETH for this one, 20,000 in ETH for the gold, and then 15,000 in ETH for this third, which was chatting with a few friends. So like these people have already won the lotto by getting the rare, which should be the most valuable NFT in the set. And then you're going to reward them with more ETH. That seems strange to me. A friend actually said, well, why not make it the lowest rarity? Right. Or I think you mentioned just do it randomly.
I like the Alphabetties thing. Obviously I won, so it was even better. But yeah, 10 random ones, get an ETH or whatever. I do agree with you. If you're already getting the rare one, that's good enough. So I'd rather see that spread out elsewhere. But you know, if you really want to gamble, that's a good gamble where it's all in the top end. But you know, you're really unlikely to hit one of those.
And clearly there's some market demand for the project, and they've held up the best. So I can't fault them. So we'll definitely keep tabs on DGen Tunes. All right, let's switch gears to 1-of-1s. So the headline of this week is Driftershoots. I feel like we've been kind of on repeat talking about him, but this guy is just on a tear right now. He was at Sothebys for an auction yesterday. The Sothebys, if people aren't aware, they set a price projection on their website for the piece, and they set the projection for this particular piece called Whatever It Takes laughably low.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. 20,000 pounds. Isn't the floor was like 50 ETH or something at least? Like,
yeah,
it's like 150K.
It was. So whoever set that line apparently is not familiar with his collection in any way. But he came in, sells over 200,000 pounds, 95 ETH, 10x what their estimate was. This guy's on cloud 9, and clearly his collection, Where My Vans Go, we'll show the OpenSea page here. It is on an up only tear. The floor is 59 ETH here for a collection of 118, of his famous photography NFTs, and he's traded over 7.5 million, 2,600 ETH. So can't really say too much good about this guy. What an awesome story.
Wish I had one, but I don't.
Yeah. My question for you is it 1-of-1 season? So we've seen growing chatter in NFT Twitter, especially this is kind of common when the PFP cycle is kind of bottoming out and we're at this stage of the cycle. Now people are saying, is it 1-of-1 season? Are we going to start seeing some rotation of funds back into 1-of-1s? What's your take? Is it 1-of-1 season?
I'm pretty skeptical. People have been saying that since I've been in NFTs, talking about how that's like the top of the funnel, that ultimate is the money flows to 1-of-1s. I've never seen that. I've seen it. You've seen it in a few collections, right? A few like X copy, Driftershoots, right? There are a few of these one of ones, and there's people that start lower and sort of get marching. But I doubt that that's coming soon. I don't think it's going to happen. Outside, certain artists will blow up. Alpha Centauri Kid, who was on here, but in terms of like the meta of the market being in one of ones, I don't see that. I think it's going to be still more projects. I don't know if we're going back to generative art like that. That was a very insane peak and then devastating crash. Then there have been a few different metas, right? We had the anime meta, simp DAO meta, like Kevin meta right now. I don't know if we're going to get a one of one meta where people are like, okay, it's one of one season. It hasn't happened yet from what I've seen, outside of, again, like certain people have blown up, but like the market hasn't been like, okay, now we're on one of ones.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. Being skeptical is the right answer. Anyone who says otherwise is just ignoring the data. I'm showing the super rare Dune Analytics dashboard right now. And I mean, February was the lowest month since last summer, and by substantial amounts. So certainly the money is not flowing there right now.
What's crazy is if March, before the whole run started with apes and all this, that was they did their biggest volume like that. This was before my time. Like I was still in Top Shot back then, and there was this insane run up and crash in one of ones then. So I don't know if there's still lingering effects from that. But there was that, I guess, was the meta back then, back in March. It was the super rare one of one meta. So it has happened. I just wasn't around for it. So it could happen again, right? But again, to me, I'm not going to try and front run that. I'll grab one of ones that I like, but I'm not, I'm not particularly optimistic that's just going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, two more pieces from my point of view. I think first, I do think one of ones from the best artists are some of the absolute best buys in the NFT space, and they're going to be the ones that hold value 5-10 years down the line. The ones you can have in your portfolio, sleep at night, and not check the price. On the flip side, the market in NFTs right now is different than people who can pay $100,000 for a single piece of art, right? These are people who are viewing NFTs as a lotto or Robinhood stock crypto investing, right? Who are trying to make a quick profit and exit back to ETH or US dollars or whatever. So I think a lot of people don't understand that the market for people who are willing to pay $50,000 to $100,000 for a single piece of art to hold for 10 years with no real buy pressure on the horizon is incredibly small. And that's why I don't know that that's why I don't think it's one-on-one season. With that being said, I still love one-on-one art. I think a strong goal for people who have success, flipping PFPs, is to try to rotate some of your gains into a lower end one-on-one piece and start to get a feel for the market.
There's good stuff on Foundation and Super Rare, whatever, 0.15, 0.2. You don't have to see these, oh, it's 60 ETH, I can't afford that. Like you can play the game at small stakes too. So like my average one-of-one price point is, so I think like 0.5, 0.6 purchase price.
Yeah,
so
that's a great point. You don't have to
be firing these huge amounts.
I love that. It's pretty fun too. You make a couple ETH scalp, flipping a PFP that you never cared about. Go look for some art that might, resound with you, that you want to hold for a bit for a new artist. So I love that play. Let's quickly check on the floors here with our friends at WGMI.io. We will start with PFPs here. So again, the theme is similar. It's mostly red. I want to touch on the 30-day change here quickly. So Bored Ape Yacht Club sits at 83. It's down 17% on the month. Kongs are at 79, down 11%. Punks are at 67.5 ETH, down about 9% on the month. As we get down into the mid-tier, Mutants are at 16.8, down 14%. Let's see, Clone X, 12.3, down 23%. Azuki's at 10, they're down 18% on the month. Doodles at 9.8, down 25%. World of Women at 8, only down 8%. And then let's get to the Cool Cats. They're at 7, down 35% on the month. One of the biggest losers, unfortunately, with the delays to the gain that they were going to roll out. I got to check on the cryptodes. Unfortunately, this is going to be tough for the Toads fan. It's incredibly far down. My gosh, where are they?
It's below Alien Friends.
Did I miss them? I saw them sell. Oh, here they are at 1.8. They're at 1.8 ETH, down 40% on the month. They never really ran during the whole January crazy bull market, and now they're not even holding up as everything else falls. They're falling in line. So tough times for the cryptos owners.
Heap, by the way, 1.6. That was not surprising to me.
Yeah, and I mean we'll see that below 1 next month. So I shared the 30-day change. It feels like everything's down, the sky is falling. It's really not down that much. And I went back and charted out since December. A lot of these sets are still up from where we were last November. So it's not all total doom and gloom. Let's quickly go through the art blocks here, and then we'll move on. So Fidenzas are sitting at 58, down 17%. Ringers at 50, up 30%. So they must have seen.
They might flip Fidenzas here. It's closing the gap.
Pretty close. And Elevate Deconstruction's up top at 45, down 10%. I think the top end art blocks and generative art, if we were in a prolonged bear, I think will hold the best of most of these projects. So I'm actually not surprised to see some buy pressure come in on some of these as folks, think we might be in for a longer bear. But certainly we'll see, and time will tell. All right, that takes us through the floors. I want to quickly touch base on the Treasure Marketplace exploit, maybe get your thoughts on this from the outside, Brett. So I'm showing a tweet here from John Patton. This is from Wednesday evening. Treasure Marketplace is being exploited. Please delist your items. We'll cover the cost. So essentially what happened is some hackers found a bug in the contract that allowed you to essentially buy any listed NFT for $0 through the contract. So about 150 NFTs from the TreasureDAO ecosystem were taken. It took them about an hour to respond, and they shut down the marketplace. They shut everything down essentially. So that was the event. The immediate aftermath. So it turned out a lot of the NFTs were taken by white hats, who immediately returned them to the owners. So that was a good sign. And then immediately, I'd say the community started rallying pretty hard behind the TreasureDAO team. It was pretty overwhelmingly positive in support. And the TreasureDAO team came out and made an announcement. They're going to make everyone whole. They're going to audit. They're going to do stronger audits. They're going to take a look at everything under the hood a bit, which I think is good. I do want to show the price action. So Wednesday evening was a crazy roller coaster hour where the magic token dropped from $3.80 and dropped all the way down to $2.20. And then it bounced back to about $3.30, $3.40 or so right away. And so people were calling it a bullish exploit. Anyone who's in this NFT space probably saw that term being thrown around a bit. But then the last 2 days have happened. Bridge World, the primary game, play to earn game, has been shut down since this happened. It's not restarted yet. And we continue to see the sell-offs. So the token just kind of slowly dropped to $2.80. So I guess kind of listening to all that, do you feel like this was a bullish or bearish event for TreasureDAO and the founding team?
I would say it was bullish. Like if you're looking at this long term, I think they handled it amazingly, right? They said we're gonna make everyone whole, right, as best we can. The founders like, I'll sell all mine. We're gonna do right by the people that believed in us. So I don't know how bad the damage was. As you said, white hats came in and took a lot of them. So I'm not sure what the damage was. I'm not sure what if the original hacker also, sometimes they start sending stuff back. You know, it's sad though, like, because this isn't it's not that easy. It almost reminds me, like when I was playing online poker, they had super users on some sites where these guys were like stupid and greedy and they would get caught, right? Where like, if you gave me that power, not that I would have taken advantage of it, but like I wouldn't get caught. This guy, if you steal all these right away for zero, you basically kill your market to sell them. So like he might have been better off going to Treasure saying, hey, I found this exploit. Do you have a bug bounty? Certainly that would have been the more ethical thing to do, right? Absolutely. Or if you really wanted to be a little sinister, he could have done it a little slower instead of like a smash and grab, and then actually tried to been making sales, right? If you took one and then sold it, you know, try that. But overall, I think Treasure handled it great. It sucks though. It shows like being a founder in this space, like you're basically under constant attack 24 hours a day, you know, and then if anything goes wrong, these people are like, I'm gonna kill you or whatever. You're gonna get death threats. So I wish them all the best. I think they handled it great.
Yeah, same. I just laughed there. I don't want to slight that these founders have received death threats, specifically from, I think it was either Zach XPT or DeFi XPT, who did a thread on a few of the Treasure devs who were tied to some projects that didn't do well. And Patton and some others had spent a week receiving death threats. So that's never okay. And it's a huge distraction for them. And then this happens. So, you know, I can outline both the bull and bear case. We've touched on it a little bit. The bull case, the community rallied around them. The community is strong as ever. The founders are doing the right thing. And they're genuinely trying to improve things. I think that there's two bear cases to this. One is it's exposing like their audit practices. Like this seemed like a pretty simple bug. This was not a sophisticated exploit from what I understand and talking to some developing friends. So it kind of puts that into question. And when you're investing in a new ecosystem like this, you're essentially betting on the founders. That is the bet to me, at least as I see it. And so to me, this casts a little bit of doubt about the true sophistication levels there. Then the second piece is now they're going to be dealing with this as their priority for the foreseeable future until everything's resolved. That means they're kicking the can down the road for everything else. Like they're trying to update and fix Bridge World. The economics have gone awry, and the treasure prices have crashed near one magic from 80. Smallverse is now on delay, and their plans for that universe. Trove, the marketplace, is now likely going to have its rollout delayed too. So there's both bull and bear sides to this. I'd say I'm somewhere neutral. The market's speaking for itself here in the short term, but I'm not selling. I still have all my assets. It's just
look, I'm pretty bullish here, but the prices did run up quite a bit. So you know, I'm not necessarily bullish on short-term price activity. I mean, you pay way more attention to this ecosystem than I do, but like I do think that they're like a legitimate team building something that has a pretty good shot of making a long-term impact in the space.
Yeah, some buys are coming in live during the show, so I think they agree with your bull case there. All right, let's end the show here with a few upcoming drops. So going on live right now is this Dutch auction from MetaTribes. It is just a baffling Dutch auction to me. I'm not reading the room or the ecosystem at all. We don't have a screen to share. I'm just going to talk through it. This is one of the kind of standard, it feels like the whitelist hype meta, where it's follow our Twitter, retweet us, join the Discord, and you'll have a shot at whitelist. And that's all of the tweets and their content. You've got 100,000 followers on Twitter, I think 200,000 or something in the Discord. Decided to run a 1/8 Dutch auction in this environment. Not only that, the floor price, the price is dropping 0.05 like every 30 minutes. So it's an incredibly slow and drawn out Dutch auction. And then they're stopping it at 0.15. That's for 6,800 of the supplies is up for sale in this Dutch. And then they're doing 2,000 for the whitelisters at 50% the price of the Dutch auction. I mean, this feels like just an egregious decision to run the auction in this fashion to me today. I guess what's your reaction to the style here, given where we're at in the market?
Yeah, I don't touch the TikTok, Instagram hype 1 ETH mint nonsense. So hopefully people have learned their lesson. I think Pixelmon has got to be the top for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the pure and hopefully people don't get burned too bad. Hopefully, like, it doesn't drive a lot of people away from the space. There's one guy on Twitter who's like, his first 2 mints were Hape and Pixelmon,
Brutal.
and it's like, that's a pretty rough intro to the space. You're spending 10 ETH combined on essentially dust. It's maybe worth 2 ETH combined now or something. So yeah, I don't know. I don't touch these.
I will say the market does appear to be getting smarter. So in the first hour, 14 of these were minted out of the 7,000 supply. Whereas I think a month ago, had MetaTribes launched with this following base, it might sell out at 1. Like we saw other projects that aren't even as slick as this do that. So clearly the market cycle is coming where we're not just minting everything for high prices. A few others on my radar here. I'm scrolling through the Lucky Trader upcoming drops page. Take a look at that for a full list. So we've got Let's Walk on Sunday from DK Motion. He's releasing 180 more animated NFTs. They're in the 0.3 to 0.7 ETH range, which DK has a cult following, top artist. Feels like the right price point for those NFTs, especially where the secondary is. So I feel like that's going to be a gas war for those. The supply is super low. Oh, it was an ETH ranked auction. Okay.
Thing. It's like the exact same thing we were talking about. I've never even heard of it, but it looks like complete nonsense. 0.15 pre-sale, Dutch auction starting at 2 ETH for 10,000 of these. I would never ever touch it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we haven't seen anything directly marketed to the K-pop crowd specifically, so I guess that's the whole thesis here. But the whole Asia narrative meta, that's long in the past. Phantom Bears are sitting at 0.7 ETH. They're down 90% from high. No one's chasing the Asia narrative right now.
And also K-pop, if you look at like a lot of whether it's gamers or like a lot of other communities, tend to hate NFTs, or at least they have enough vocal people that hate NFTs within their communities that it's hard. Like I don't see, the K-pop world, which I don't really know anything about, rallying, oh yeah, now we're into NFTs. They're going to be, oh, it's bad for the environment, like the same stuff, I think. So I agree with you. I'm skeptical there's going to be some big crossover.
What is on my radar in a positive that I just started looking at this morning is Hyperloot. So it's described as a layer 2 visualization for the Loot project. They pushed their sale. It's going to be March 8th now. But I was on their Twitter page. They've got some pretty slick videos. Punk 4156 was actually retweeting them here this morning about how it's the future of CCO. But it seems like this world building game where you can use characters, NFTs from a variety of projects. So Loot, Blitmap, NounsDAO, Cryptodes, Chain Runners are all different characters that you can play as in this Hyperloot metaverse layer 2 visualization. So it's a cool idea. They've got some slick graphics. I haven't really seen this specific application yet. It's 0.05 ETH, so it's a reasonable price point. Relatively 20,000 supply. So this one just came across my desk. I'm gonna spend a little bit more time looking into it and we'll report back next month. But this could
honestly, first glance, I'm interested in learning more about this.
So that one is cool. So check that out. And then last, Azuki is doing their Bobu fractional sale on Sunday. They're doing 20,000 fractions at 0.01. The twist here is we thought that was the full supply. It turns out the full supply is 50,000. So which would signify a 500 ETH raise. The funds aren't going to the team. The funds are being set aside for the fractional owners to be able to use to build out proposals, projects related to Bobu. It still feels like a hefty price tag to me. And I was surprised that only 40% of the supply is coming out this Sunday. I think that is something to get into. If you want to be a part of the Azuki community and you don't have the funds to buy a full NFT and you want to help craft the story, by all means, go do that. I don't think this is an investment play by any means by trying to get some fractions and looking to flip those. Certainly, I could be wrong, but that's my current take on Bobu. All right, Brett, I think that's everything on my list. Anything else on your side?
That's all.
We covered a ton. Thank you for joining me. To our listeners and viewers, as always, thanks for tuning in. We will be back next Friday. Till then, stay safe out there. We'll talk to you soon. Awesome.